Can you imagine holding a simple, sharp stone in your hand and suddenly realizing it could change everything? For our earliest ancestors, this wasn't just a thought, it was the spark that ignited a revolution. They were about to discover that survival wasn't just about running and hiding. It could be shaped, molded, and controlled by their own hands. This is the story of how humanity invented its future, one rock at a time. After mastering the art of walking upright and navigating their world, early humans began to see their environment differently. It wasn't just a landscape of food and danger anymore. It was a toolbox waiting to be opened. They saw sharp-edged stones littering the ground, long, sturdy sticks that had fallen from trees, and the powerful claws of predators. An idea began to form. What if they could use these objects to their advantage? This wasn't a single aha moment, but a slow, painstaking process of trial, error, and intense observation. They were on the verge of learning how to cut, scrape, hunt, and defend themselves, fundamentally changing their place in the natural world. It all started with a simple, curious act. An early human picks up a stone. It's not just any stone. This one has a sharp edge, perhaps broken by a fall or split by another rock. They feel its weight, run a finger cautiously along the edge. What is this? Curiosity, the engine of all innovation, takes over. They try it on a tough plant stem. It works, kind of. They try it on a piece of leftover meat from a scavenger's meal. It separates the flesh from the bone far better than their own fingernails ever could. In that moment, the stone ceases to be just a rock. It becomes a possibility, a tool. The first connection between an inanimate object and a specific purpose is made, and the human mind lights up with creative potential. At the same time, they were noticing sticks. Sticks were everywhere, strong, flexible, and light. They were already using them for simple tasks, maybe to poke at something interesting in a crevice or to sweep leaves aside. But then came the realization of leverage and reach. A stick could be used to dig for roots and tubers buried just beneath the soil, unlocking a whole new food source. It could extend their arm's reach, allowing them to knock fruit from a high branch or test the depth of a muddy puddle without stepping into it. A simple stick became an extension of their own body, a way to interact with the world from a safer, more effective distance. The world was literally brought closer. But a naturally sharp stone can only do so much. The real breakthrough came when our ancestors made a crucial connection. They could make a sharp edge. Perhaps by accident, one stone was dropped on another, and a flake with a razor-sharp edge broke off. Or maybe, out of frustration, one was thrown against a rock face. The result was the same, a controlled, repeatable process for creating a superior tool. They began striking stones together, learning through countless failures. Hitting too hard would shatter the whole thing. The angle had to be just right. It required patience, precision, and a deep understanding of the material. This technique, known as flint knapping, was the world's first manufacturing process. The result was the hand axe, a teardrop-shaped, all-purpose tool that would remain the pinnacle of technology for over 1 million years. With this, the first true cutting tools emerged, born from intelligence and persistence. These new, sharpened stones immediately revolutionized daily life, especially when it came to food. Before, getting every last bit of meat from a carcass was a struggle. Now, with a sharp flake, they could efficiently scrape meat from bones, ensuring no precious calories went to waste. They could use the tools to cut through tough animal hides, which could then be used for warmth or shelter. They could slice open tough gourds and cut through fibrous plants, making them easier to chew and digest. This wasn't just about convenience. It was a massive leap in energy efficiency. More calories extracted for less effort meant healthier, stronger individuals and a much higher chance of survival for the entire group. Food was no longer just something to be found. It was something to be processed and prepared. With the ability to shape stone and wood, the next logical step was to combine them. A long, straight stick was useful. A sharpened stone was a powerful cutter. But what if you put them together? By fastening a sharp stone point to the end of a long stick, they created the first primitive spear. This was a game changer. It was no longer just a digging stick. It was a weapon. They experimented, learning how to throw it, how to thrust with it. It dramatically increased the distance between them and their target. Whether it was prey or a predator, the spear wasn't just a tool. It was a projection of force, a way to hunt and defend from a much safer range. The balance of power was beginning to shift. Armed with these new inventions, our ancestors became more effective hunters. Initially, they likely focused on small, slow-moving prey lizards, turtles, or rodents. Using a simple stick to pin down an animal or a sharp stone to dispatch it was far more successful than trying to catch things with their bare hands. They were keen observers of the natural world. They watched how lions ambushed their prey, how wolves hunted in packs. These observations inspired their own strategies. They learned to use the terrain to their advantage, to drive small animals towards a waiting companion, and to use their new tools with growing precision. Hunting became less about luck and more about strategy and technology. This newfound capability wasn't just for hunting. It was critical for defense. As relatively small, slow primates on the open savanna, early humans were incredibly vulnerable. Predators were a constant threat. But a human holding a heavy stone or a sharpened stick is a much more formidable opponent than one with empty hands. They learned to stand their ground, to make themselves look bigger, and to use their tools as a deterrent. A group of humans, armed and working together, could potentially fend off animals that a lone individual would have no chance against. This was the beginning of threat management. The proactive defense of their lives and their families. They were no longer just potential victims. They were fighters. And that's where the real magic happened. Cooperation. The development of tools reinforced the importance of teamwork. Imagine a hunt. One person could use a stick to rustle bushes and flush out a small animal, while another stood ready with a sharpened stone to strike. One could distract a larger predator while others moved to safety. Sharing tools and sharing the knowledge of how to make and use them became essential for the group's survival. The tools themselves became a social glue, binding the group together in common tasks and a shared goal. Efficiency skyrocketed, and the concept of a team, a community working together with technology, was born. Each small success was a monumental achievement. The first time a sharpened stone successfully butchered a small animal. The first time a group fended off a scavenger with their primitive spears. These were victories that built confidence and fueled more innovation. Our ancestors realized that these tools weren't just objects. They were an extension of their will, a way to impose order on a chaotic world. Survival transformed from a purely reactive, moment-to-moment struggle into something proactive. They weren't just surviving the environment anymore. They were starting to shape it. Their intelligence was their ultimate weapon, and their tools were the proof. It's incredible to think about, isn't it? Through simple observation and relentless curiosity, our ancestors turned common stones and sticks into the instruments of their own destiny. Humanity's incredible journey of progress didn't start with grand empires or complex machines. It started right here, with the fundamental understanding that they could shape their world to better suit their needs. And as they worked, striking stones together to create their life-saving tools, they would have noticed something else. In the dim light of dusk, as rock struck rock, a tiny, fleeting spark would occasionally fly through the air. A little flicker of light and heat. Most of the time, it was nothing. But the same curious minds that saw a tool in a stone would soon ask another question. What is that spark? And could it, too, be controlled? Their next great discovery was just a flicker away: the mastery of fire, a force that would change warmth, protection, and cooking forever. Thanks so much for joining me on this journey back in time. If you enjoyed exploring the dawn of human ingenuity, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss our next episode, where we'll dive into the story of fire. We'll see you next time.